Hello and welcome to The Real Franchise, a video series designed to deliver real information, real answers, and real insights into franchising. This series is brought to you by James Home Services Australia. I'm the CEO, and Justin is one of our owners and our head of new businesses. Together, we are going to tackle all of the big topics: unscripted, unplanned, and unfiltered. There's no sales, there's no fluff. We're just going to give you the information straight up. Today's topic is a big one, and it's one that most franchise networks probably wouldn't dare to talk about publicly. Whilst we have the significant majority of our franchise network successful in their businesses, we have a handful that just don't make it work. We have businesses in our network that fail, and today we're going to talk about that. We're going to go there. We're going to dissect why they fail, what leads to it, what it looks like, what we do when somebody's not going really well, how we step in and how we help. But mostly we're going to help people understand why it's so important to really make sure that joining a franchise network is the right decision for them. Justin, this is a really big topic, and I would be lying if I said that I felt completely calm about discussing it publicly, because there's a lot of different perceptions that people have about franchise networks. There's a lot of ways that people could take the information from this episode today, but we're going to go there. We're going to talk about failure in franchising.
Yeah. Yep. And I think it's really important. I was meeting with a guy in Melbourne that's looking at joining us, and that was one of his questions to me. Tell me about why people fail. And it was like, that's a really good question. I think fundamentally at the start, for whoever's listening, in franchises, the vast majority are successful, across franchising. That's why franchising is such a popular form of business. And sadly, what most of us hear is the small percentage, in the press and media and the horror stories of what any of us would hate to see happen. It's that small majority that we're hearing. We don't hear the, vast majority that have a great story to tell. So I think keep that in the forefront of your mind if you're listening to this as we go forward. We're talking about the percentage, and having done this for 15 years, like my role in this company, yes, I'm the owner, but my role is I talk, as you know, Rhiannon, I work with everyone who's looking to join us. And so at the front end, that's really great. It's exciting and seeing people's hopes and dreams as they walk into this. I've had to deal with a lot of people over the years that have exiting the business, but you particularly in the last 12 months or so, that's really fallen more into your realm as the CEO of our organisation. So I guess, are there any common things that you've been finding that cause people for this not to work for somebody?
Yeah, there's one common thing throughout every single failure that we've experienced in our network. In the last 3.5 years since you and your business partner came into ownership, we have had a number of failures. And it comes down to just one single thing. And it is a failure of an individual to take responsibility for their actions. And that sounds like a really broad brush kind of, placing all of the blame on someone else answer. But I'm going to explain what I mean by that. It's really quick to say, economic circumstances meant that there wasn't demand in the market. Or, I did all my marketing and the leads just didn't come. Or you guys didn't send me leads. Or, the market wasn't prepared to pay an hourly rate that meant that I could be profitable. Or, it didn't take off quick enough, so I needed to go back to paid work to pay all of my bills. There are so many ways that failure presents. And there are so many reasons that we are given as to why a business we've noticed going downhill won't sort of pick back up and make a strong business out of it. And at the end of the day, all around this country, we have successful businesses who have family circumstances change, who have health situations present themselves, who have gone through COVID just like everybody else, who operate in regional areas. So maybe there's not the socioeconomic demographic mix that you would assume you would need for one of these businesses to be profitable. So we have successful businesses everywhere that we operate, and we have a handful that aren't successful. And what it boils down to every single time is that someone who fails has failed to take responsibility for their business.
Yep.
So they've sat back, they've waited for us to send the leads to them. They have sat back and not gone out and marketed their business in the way that we teach them how to do. They have, you know, some actually fail after doing really financially well. You know, they do a huge turnover, and that we look at the turnover and we think these guys are going fantastically. And then all of a sudden they're coming to us with major cash flow issues, and it boils down to, you know, their personal spending got out of hand there for a period.
Yeah.
So again, they failed to take responsibility for their own actions. Time and time again, that's what it comes down to.
So true. So true.
Yeah.
Do you think some of this has to do with, I think in this, I often talk about this employee mentality. I find that a lot of us have, because we've always worked for someone else, and you know, when you're working for a boss, you just go do this and the boss takes care of all this stuff. And so when there's a challenge in the business you're working for, it's not your fault. You know, it's not your issue. You've been working hard. It's someone else's problem.
Yeah, you clock off at 5 p.m. and you go home and you sleep sound at night, and you just show up at 9 the next morning. And what you haven't seen is that between 9 that night and between 5 when you clocked off and 9 o'clock the next morning, the business owner has been up trying to figure out this problem. You know, whatever it is, he's been out there marketing, or she's been out there marketing, or they've been fixing a piece of software that failed the day before, or they've been trying to cut it, you know, do a deal with a purchaser of services. Like, what you don't see as an employee is the work that goes on behind the scenes to actually run the business. You make an excellent point, and it is one of the hardest transitions to make, is from that employee mindset to business owner mindset. Because then as an employee, you just show up, you do your job description, and that's that. As a business owner, you are the one solely responsible for the income that your business receives. It's not your staff, it's not us, it's you. You've got to go out there and make it work. You've got to go and market your business, and you've got to generate those leads, and you've got to work out how to convert them, and you've got to then quote them profitably, and you've got to do the job well enough that somebody actually wants to be a repeat customer of your business. When it's not going well, you've also got to own that. You've got to take that on board, take it on the cheek, and you've got to say, rightio, if this is to be, this has got to be me. I've got to have to sort out my challenge here. When I was very early in my career, I was 20 at the time, and I took over management of it was our local general store, post office, cafe, bit of everything. And I had been working in the business as an employee for about 3 years, and then the previous manager left overnight in some not great circumstances, and it meant that the owners of the business, who were Melbourne-based, and this was a country Victorian business, so they weren't present in the business. They were reliant on a business manager and the staff. And the manager left, and overnight they were, you know, scratching like, what are we going to do? And I stuck my hand in the air and I said, let me have a go. Like, I'm 20, I know nothing, right? I was doing a business degree, so I thought I knew everything. But I stuck my hand in the air, and I remember one of the hardest things for me, it was quite easy for me to switch to that business owner mindset. I wasn't the business owner, but I was the manager, and I really took responsibility for the outcomes of that business. It was easy for me to make that mindset switch, but what the hardest thing was to explain to the people who I had worked with, who had been my equals and my colleagues, you know, all of a sudden I'm out the back doing orders and inventory, and I'm out the back doing numbers and the finance, and I'm doing the banking, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and I'm making sure that we're keeping up all of our requirements for AusPost. My role changed overnight, and it was so different. I wasn't out on the floor making coffees anymore. I wasn't serving customers anymore. I was doing the back of the house stuff that actually kept the business running every day. And I remember that so many of the people I worked with were girls my age. And they were like, you've changed. Like, who are you? You used to be fun. You used to laugh out the front with us, making coffees, having jokes, you know? And I was like, I'm still that person, but my role is different. And I'd be sitting out the back doing the admin work, trying to get through a whole heap of stuff. And they'd be like, you never serve customers anymore. You know, you're not pulling your weight. And I'm like, oh man, you guys don't understand. My role is totally different to yours now. And as a business owner, your role is totally different to what it has ever been before as an employee. Yes. And if you don't make that transition, then you're showing up in your business every day as an employee. So when something hard happens, you're like, whoa, this is not good. But surely somebody else is going to fix it for me, right? Surely James head office swoops in and fixes this. And it's not the case because it's your business. It's your responsibility.
Yep, so true. I had a call this morning. We had someone inquire from Adelaide looking. He has an existing business, and his exact words were, it's been a lot harder than I thought it would be getting up and going. And we had a good chat, and the sorts of things, this is exactly what he's dealing with, like from the other conversation we had, that I think he hasn't yet taken that, whether you join a franchise or not, you have to own it. And you have to be solutions focused. Like I think as some of our great success stories, and James, we've got Neil in Sydney who 2-3 months into his business broke his ankle in a really bad way, needed 2 or 3 operations, was off his feet for 3 months. You know, there's someone that could have just gone, sorry, Justin, sorry, James, can't make this work. I busted my ankle. You know, instead, he had that business owner mentality. He had responsibility for his business and gone, well, this is a hiccup. This is a pain. But that just means I've got to find more customers so that I can have employees continue to look after my business. And that's what he did. And he has teams of staff now. He's actually, as you know, he's one of our national trainers. But for many other people, that would have been a reason to give up. And that there is a classic one of the cases. You know, the other, I think, circumstances that we see that is relationship failure, like marriage breakdown or relationships busting up, and the person, I mean, you've seen it, Rhiannon, where it's like, I can't do this anymore. It's like, well, wait a second. I get this is a really tough personal situation, but you have a business, you know, like let's just focus on your business. And that could actually help, having your mind on something else.
Absolutely. The business is something that's yours that you can control. And when life feels otherwise chaotic, actually having something that anchors you in a routine each day, in familiarity each day, it can actually be a real blessing in disguise instead of a burden. And the trick is to see it that way. Because people who look at it and say, oh gosh, this has gotten too hard, it's too complicated, I just want to throw in the towel. Mostly it's been a pattern in their life. Every time something's got hard, they've just kind of walked away. Oh, this has gotten hard, I can't do it anymore. I'm going to walk away. Something else will come up. You know, this wasn't for me. The ones who really make a success out of their businesses in our network are the ones that see every hardship as an opportunity to get better outcomes in the future, to negate those hardships later on in life, you know, to work hard now and build something that makes life more enjoyable, gives you more time, gives you more financial stability. But it's seeing that short-term pain or discomfort or hardship can sometimes actually be a pivotal turning point in somebody's life, to really indicate to them, if you knuckle down now, you can get through anything, and what actually you're building is something for the future. I think what I see often, and I work with anybody who indicates they're looking for an exit from our network. Ultimately, we have a really straightforward process that we walk someone through. And look, people will ask for exit for lots of different reasons. It's not always business failure. But a lot of the time when I'm needing to get involved, the business has failed and it's not a voluntary exit. It's exit under pressure because the business has failed. And I really do see people just completely failing to take responsibility for what's led up to this, and then I'll be talking to them and, oh, you guys didn't send us any leads. And I can pull up any report and say, no, actually, we sent you 35 in the last 12 weeks. So what happened with those? Oh, well, I couldn't contact any of them. Well, our records indicate that you took on average 3 hours to get back to all of those customers. And then our records indicate that you didn't actually convert any more than 40%. And that's a lot below our network average. And so, we've got all of these stats here, right? We know where you're falling down. And what we find is that all we have to do to figure out what to do to turn the business around is find the area in our system that the business owner isn't following.
Yep.
Because whilst we've just finished talking about, failure is because the business owner hasn't taken responsibility for their actions, that's the root cause, but it presents as a lot of different things. And it presents as, they haven't had marketing leads. It presents as they're not charging adequately for their services, so they can't make enough money to pay their bills. It presents as their conversion is really, really low. It presents as they're not following up adequately per our system. They're not seeking referrals and references. They're not seeking reviews, and all of these things are parts of our system, and we have processes around all of those elements, and they're all critical. And the secret to our system is following each element of the system to the letter with consistency and with integrity. And when you do that, the system works for you. If you skip a part or if you fall asleep at the wheel for a couple of weeks, your leads will stop. If you get lazy and you stop contacting customers the minute they're calling you, your leads will stop. If you're not using our system to deliver the quote and then negotiate on the quote, then you'll stop converting those leads into jobs. And so, you're not accumulating the client base that you need in order to be profitable. There is a million different ways that failure presents. And what we find often is that business owners look at those things and they say, oh, you didn't send me leads, or the leads were rubbish, or this or that, or your system didn't work. And if I'm totally honest, we've not actually had an example, a legitimate example in the last 3.5 years where someone who has followed our system has failed. I don't have an example of it.
I've been in James for 15 years and I don't have an example that I can think of.
Yep.
In like what you were just saying, the reasons people give, right? Just the way people say that is, it's an excuse. It's their reality. But I remember years ago when I was working for Wesfarmers, they had this saying, the customer's perception is their reality. I think often our perception becomes our reality. If you perceive this is why your business has failed, well, yeah, it's going to fail for that reason. But as a business owner who takes responsibility, if it's not working, right, this has been my view always in my business, is if it's not working, what do I have to change? I have to be the solution here. There is a solution. The beauty about when you join James, you've taken on a proven system that's been developed over 30 years and is continuing to be refined more and more. Okay, so what am I doing wrong? You got a business coach. What am I doing wrong? And then go and do, and you all of a sudden things turn around. But sadly, when we call it, as you know, rationalizations, when we accept our excuses and use that excuse as a foundation to stand on, this isn't working because COVID, because economic situations, because my wife has left me, because, there's 100 different things we've heard. If you stand on that, yeah, you're going to fail. But if you take responsibility, and this is what you're saying, is it all comes back to that. If you take responsibility and go, this is my business, I can make this work. What's the solution? There's a solution here, and I'm going to do it. Simple as that.
Yeah. If we as a company accepted COVID as an excuse 4 years ago, we would not be in existence. No franchise network would, right? Almost no business would, because the challenge that presented to small business during that period of time was challenge that I don't think we have ever seen before in the space of business ownership. And I'm really hopeful we'll never see it again. And it required an awful lot of business owners to dig deep. And the ones that made it through did exactly that. And it's really interesting. I mean, I know we're all COVID talked out, but COVID is such a poignant example of taking responsibility for yourself and for your business and for its outcomes. Because look at how quick restaurants pivoted almost overnight. They're doing deliveries where they would never have thought about doing deliveries before. And businesses that pivoted overnight, and all of a sudden they're manufacturing hand sanitizer and hospital-grade masks to keep our population as safe as possible. Businesses that just weren't even thinking about manufacturing those items before. And that doesn't happen because the business owner stepped back and said, oh, I'm just going to wait for this to pass. I'm just going to put my business on hold until it's all good again. That actually takes guts. That takes the business owner stepping up and saying, okay, my model right now isn't working. What am I going to do to change it?
Yeah. Look at us right now. Look at us right now. We're talking on Zoom.
Yeah.
You're in Victoria. I'm in Queensland. I wouldn't have known about Zoom unless it was COVID had come along, So yes, through those challenges and hard times, if you take responsibility, you'll often end up in a far better position because you've adapted, changed, you've been forced to change what you're doing and you get a better outcome.
Yep. We have a saying in James, which is always choose hard.
Yeah.
And the meaning of that, for anyone listening, it's as applicable in life as it is in business. Always choose hard. The meaning of it is you will so many times, even on a daily basis, come to a fork in the road where you've got more than one decision. And it's not just a simple case of continuing down on the same road that you've been going. And this is, there's a million opportunities every single day you get to make decisions. Every decision you make is a fork in the road. But when it comes to the bigger decisions, and even when it is the day-to-day decisions, always choose hard. For instance, you've just started a new business, cash flow, you're still developing cash flow. It's your birthday. Do you go out and book a beautiful Airbnb away for the weekend with your partner, and, it's going to cost sort of $1,000 to go away for a couple of nights, go to the spa, get a couple of treatments, pamper yourself because you've worked hard, so you deserve it? Or do you do something a little bit more modest, do a little picnic on the Sunday afternoon, you go to the supermarket, grab some nibbles, and off you go to the park and enjoy the sunshine? Choosing hard, that one is it's almost a silly example, right? But it demonstrates the point perfectly because
Absolutely.
you think, oh, no, I don't want just to it's my birthday and I've worked really hard and it's only once a year. So no, I'm going to splurge. I'm going to treat myself. Choosing hard is actually choosing to do a modest picnic, sort of staying at home kind of option, right? But if you choose that option, you've just saved $1,000, which means that you've got money in your bank account to pay your bills. You've got money in your bank account to keep your business going. You've got less stress in your life because you've got money in your bank account. And when you approach your business, you get options all the way along. Your business coaches in James Home Services are going to be saying, okay, let's look at your marketing action plan for the last week. What did you do? What were the results? Let's talk about that. So many times we'll get business owners come into those meetings and even though we have a marketing action plan in place that's been jointly developed and agreed upon by the business owner comes into that meeting with their business coach and says, oh, I was really tired, so I didn't do very much this week. That was choosing easy. Yes, operating a business is exhausting, but choosing hard is choosing to persevere. It's balancing yourself and your time and your activities so that you still are resting, but there's plenty you can do to market your business from literally sitting on your couch, on your computer. There's so many strategies that we teach you that are easy to do. So those are just two examples, but choosing hard, particularly in the second one with the business, if you're out there marketing your business, you're giving yourself the opportunity to generate leads, and that gives yourself the opportunity to get customers, and that's revenue in your bank account, which you are responsible for generating in your business. So choosing hard in that instance means financial security. It means financial longevity. It means a sustainable business. So are you going to sit there and feel sorry for yourself that you're tired? Balance it out. Make sure you allocate rest time. Absolutely. That's really important. We're not saying don't sleep. All you have to do is market your business, but you have to challenge yourself. You have to get okay with feeling uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
You have to choose hard. There are so many times in my life where I have been at that fork in the road and I could have taken easy, but I'm sitting here today because I chose hard every single time. And every single business owner in our network who has made a successful business, they will tell you this, they did the same thing. When it got tricky, they chose hard. And honestly, it's attitude, it's choosing hard, it's taking responsibility for yourself and your outcomes, and it's getting off your bottom and helping yourself. It's this. This makes successful business owners. It's not luck. It's not magic. It's not just, silver spoon stuff. It's this stuff. And it's hard and it's exhausting, but boy, oh boy, is it rewarding at the end of the day. I don't think we have a successful business owner in our network who would rather have failed but chosen easy. They will all say, it's been hard, we've had our moments, but we would do it again in a heartbeat had our time over.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that I think really sums up, why people fail in a nutshell. There's 1,000 secondary reasons, but they all funnel into not taking responsibility.
Yeah.
It's your business. It's my business. If it's going to succeed, it's because I've made it succeed. If it's not working, there's a solution and I'm going to find it.
Yeah. And the reality is it's not rocket science, particularly when you join a franchise network, because we have a system. And as I said before, I don't have an example where someone who's followed the system has ended up exiting our network. It's only the people who haven't followed the system and then who fail to take responsibility for that end up failing. The other thing that I just want to mention really quickly is that because we have that system in place and because we are now so good at identifying where someone is falling down in the system, it makes it really straightforward to actually turn one of our businesses around. Because it's always there's something in that system that isn't being done or is being missed or isn't being done well enough, or somebody needs some additional upskilling or support. We identify where it is in our system that somebody is falling down, and then we build an action plan around supporting. And that means rolling up our sleeves, getting in there deep and actually figuring out the root cause of the problem. Sometimes it's fear, sometimes it's comfort zone, sometimes it's lack of skill, sometimes it's just laziness, frankly. But we get in there and we figure out what it is, and then we build an action plan with that business owner to help them identify the problem and then give them really simple, tangible strategies that when employed will result in them getting back on track. But again, it's back over to the business owner to decide whether they're going to follow that guidance or not. The ones who do, they pull themselves out. They turn it around and they get back on track and they get back on focus. The ones who don't end up failing. But that system means that part of the role of our business coaches, predominantly we're very proactive in how we manage our businesses. And our business coaches are always focused on growth and, how to help business owners follow the system. But we're also very proactive in noticing and identifying when someone isn't going so well. And 9 times out of 10, we've seen it before they have.
Yeah.
And we identify it early. We find what the problem is. We solve what the problem is. We develop an action plan, and then we walk alongside that business owner to implement. The last thing that actually makes all the difference that we can't do is whether the business owner takes that guidance on.
Yep. Takes the responsibility. Yep. So,
Comes back to that one same thing every single time. We are here to help. We are here to support. And frankly, we have all the answers. And that sounds ridiculously egotistical, but it's also factual in our network. Our system is what it is because it works. It is proven. It's developed hundreds of successful businesses over the years. We know what it takes, which means it's really easy for us to identify when someone's not implementing that system.
Yep. So true.
Yep.
Very true.
Well, I think perhaps we leave this episode here. We've talked about all sorts of things around failure, around why it happens, how it appears, what you can do to avoid it, and also what we do to help people avoid it as well. So hopefully this episode has been interesting to everybody listening along. If you've made it this far, thank you. Thank you for spending half an hour of your day with us. And we shall see you in the next episode of The Real Franchise very soon.